In the previous lecture, we started with the concept of introduction to the web servers and the possible vulnerabilities on the web servers. Today, we'll see the web server attacks and what are the various attacking strategies that need to be followed by a penetration tester or a hacker to conduct or to launch the attacks on the web server or to exploit the vulnerabilities on the web server. So in the last lecture, we have seen the open web servers, IIS web server, then the type of vulnerabilities present in the web servers and the reason for the web server compromise. These are the concepts that we have seen in the last lecture. In today's lecture, we will move on to the web server attacks. The first attack that need to be discussed on the web server is denial of service attack. Denial of service attack is the most frequently happening attack on the web servers, especially to down the services that are provided by the servers. Actually, this will be done via flooding the fake requests, especially the flooding of the fake requests will be happened. That means exponentially over a period of time, so that server will not be in a position to respond to that exponential request which is flooding into the server, and thereby it may lead to the crash of the server. And this can be done in various ways. That means the denial of service can be done in various levels of the protocol stack, from the starting from the physical level to the application level. So that means the chance of the denial of service is more in case of the web server. The reason, as I told you, it can be launched on various levels of the protocol stack. And also, most commonly conducting procedure of the denial of service is via man-in-middle attack, or ARP spoofing, or DNS poisoning, or it can be done via buffer overflows and exploiting the buffer overflows. These are the four major ways with which this denial of service will be conducted on the web servers. The next one is DNS server hijacking. Any of the computer or any of the web browser, whenever the website is typed in the browser, there will be a DNS service which is binded to the port 53. That DNS service will be resolved, will take the particular string and will resolve it into an IP address that is a related IP address of the website. Because the IP addresses cannot be remembered, so that is the reason a naming convention will be provided for the IP address of the web servers. And whenever you type this name, then the browser will take the help of the DNS service, that is domain name service, and this particular name will be converted into the IP address, and then the request will be forwarded further. So DNS server hijacking is nothing but compromising the DNS server by DNS cache poisoning. This, as I told you just now, this is also a kind of denial of service. Whenever the DNS cache was poisoned, then the mapping of the strings to the corresponding IP addresses cannot be taken place. And this DNS spoof is a tool, especially will take the parameters such as which IP address need to be spoofed from the network interface, and on which port this particular spoofed thing will be binded. And whenever this spoofed website was observed by the DNS spoof, then to which DNS or to which website this particular traffic need to be diverted. These are the things will be taken care by the DNS spoof tool. So you should be aware of DNS spoof tool to know this DNS server hijacking. Next one is DNS amplification attack. Takes advantage of DNS recursive method. Lookup address of the DNS is poisoned. Usually, many of the computers will be having a DNS service which is responsible for converting the website names to the IP addresses. But sometimes some of the systems are unable to convert or look up the corresponding IP address for a given website. So what they will do is they will forward the request to the next level of the DNS server, which is available to the system. This is called recursive DNS method. That means within a system, if the DNS lookup is unable to get it, then it will go to the next service provider of the DNS. Then the next service provider, whoever is available and connected to the computer over the internet, that next DNS server will resolve it and will give you the IP address back. This is the recursive DNS method. So whenever this recursive DNS method is enabled, obviously it will look for the address, that is look up the address of the DNS which is poisoned. Because of this poisoning, what will happen, instead of the next higher level DNS server IP address, attacker may place his own IP address. So to look up the DNS, instead of approaching to the next level DNS server, it will approach the hacker server. So this is the way the DNS amplification attack may be conducted. Next is the directory traversal attack. In some of the websites you might have seen, whenever you search for the PDFs or some other things, directly you can, whenever you click it or whenever you open a new window, the file will be downloaded. Whenever the file is downloaded, you will still find the directory where the particular file is available. If you traverse the directory that is, if you traverse the directory, then you will get the previous directory, and it will list all the files which are available in the website or in the particular folder. Like this, this directory traversal attack will be performed on traversing all the possible directories that are available under a website. So this is called directory traversal attack. Especially this will be done to find out any sensitive information which was hidden in the files, or some of the log files or some text files, configuration scripts that may be left over in the folders. For that purpose, this particular directory traversal attack will be performed. It is trying to access the restricted directories on the trial and error basis. So they will try to hit the private folders that are available on the website, and it will be connected on the trial and error basis. If the attacker gets success, then that is the end of the attack. Next one is man in the middle or sniffing attack. Here, man in the middle especially used to sniff the packets. Either it may be done via ARP spoofing or any other sources, especially to spoof the packets of TCP. Actually, this TCP will be this TCP services will be taken over by or requested by the HTTP or HTTPS or at the application level. So the reason this TCP packets sniffing will be conducted via man-in-middle attack. For this, the man-in-middle attack, to conduct this man-in-middle attack, the attacker may use the powerful sniffing tools. Especially these sniffing tools will be operated in the promiscuous mode. Then only whatever the traffic which is running on the on the network can be traced. Especially in this sniffing of the packet, the attacker will search for the session IDs and the packet numbers and sequence numbers. So the sequence numbers are very important, and in the sequence numbers and in the packets, especially the TCP signals that they have enabled, whether it may be an acknowledgement signal or synchronous acknowledgement signal or reset signal. Like this, what are the signals that are enabled? Based on that, he will make the prediction to what type of fabricated packet to be generated, and what type of signal to be enabled and to be sent over the communication channel. Phishing attacks. Phishing attacks is the attempt to extract login details from the fake websites that looks like a legitimate. Majorly, this will be conducted via phishing mails. Phishing mails means here you have won the lottery, click the following link to claim your lottery. Like that, you will receive some mails like congratulations, you have got this, and you have been selected for this. Click like this. So click the following link. So these are the things usually will be sent by the attackers. Whenever you click that link, automatically it will be diverted to the fake website, and that fake website consisting of it will look like the original website only, but it is actually a fake website. A best example is It is just like you may receive a mail from the sbi.com.co.in or some Axis or something, and you will find a mail with the same appearance of the SBI or Axis Bank or HDFC Bank or something, but it is saying that okay, your dear customer, your account has been you have not changed the password from past several days, and you are supposed to change the password. Like that, some message will get, and finally you click the following link, Team Axis Bank or Team SBI, something like that you will get. But the entire appearance and all will look similar to the website, similar to the bank website appearance only. But whenever you look at the from address, from where it has come, there is no correlation of the SBI. Something from some different emails you will get it, but it is not from sba.co.in or access.co.in. Something from that real website, so you will not get the emails. From the real email addresses, you will not get the email. So without looking at that, by mistake, if you might have clicked that, then obviously you will get a website which will look similar to the Axis or SBI Bank, but there you will not find HTTPS certificate related thing. It only HTTP you will find, and the web page, the customer login, everything will look like the same. And whenever you enter this your customer ID or password, etc., then automatically these things will be recorded at the server at the attacker's end. This is also called as website mirroring. Usually, this website mirroring will be done as part of the social engineering procedure. This website mirroring will be done, and this will be displayed onto the customer's browser, or whenever the customer clicks this phishing mails, then automatically this will be shown onto the screen. For that, you have to use the Social Engineering Toolkit, SET toolkit, in the Kali Linux for generating the mirror websites or fake websites that look similar to the Facebook, Gmail, whatever the website you want. For that, it will generate a fake website, and that will be used for the launching of this particular phishing attacks. Next is website defacement. This is the most frequently happening attack over the internet. It is just like replacing the web page with some other names. That is successful intrusion into the legitimate website. It is just like the hacking of some websites of enemy countries, and there you are placing the slogans of the country and playing the national anthem there. This kind of activities are the website defacement. Next one is web server misconfiguration. Website misconfiguration means exploiting server by observing the remote functions, default certificates, and debugging options. Usually, this web server misconfiguration will happen because of the reason that the system administrator or the security administrator might have not changed the default settings. So that is the reason attacker will try with all the default settings. If they might have not changed the default settings, with the default settings he may enter into the server. So that is thereby he can exploit the server by observing the remote functions, default certificates, and debugging options. Next one is HTTP response splitting. HTTP response splitting is a clever trick followed by the attacker, in which instead of single request, the request will be splitted and sent over the server to add malicious header response. Usually, HTTP request will be sent at once. Instead, what will happen is here the request will be split into two, and will be sent to the server. Once the split response received by the server, it also responds via splitting the response. That means whenever the split request has received by the server, server will also respond via splitting the response. In this, the first response will be taken by the attacker. The second response will be forwarded to the victim. Thereby, the response will be redirected to the legitimate user and to the compromised server. Here, the compromised server, in the sense, the server which is maintained by the attacker. one response will go to the attacker's web server, and one response will go to the victim's machine. There is a feature of the HTTP servers that if you might have sent the request via splitting, then the response will also be sent via splitting by the servers. So that particular feature will be taken as an advantage to exploit the web server, and also to divert the traffic from the legitimate server to the compromised server. Next one is web cache poisoning. As just like ARP cache poisoning, DNS cache poisoning, this web server web cache poisoning will also be done, because in any website, any web browsers, this particular cache will be maintained in order to search the websites very fast. So this particular cache will be poisoned. So it is done by sending crafted packets with malicious content to replace the cache entries. Next one is SSH brute force attack. This is a very powerful and most commonly happening attack. SSH means secured socket host. Usually SSH means in which what will happen is the web servers will be executing in the or running in the isolation. But if the administrator want to access these web servers from the outside of the organization, then they will use a secure tunnel to connect with the web servers. That secure tunnel will be established with the help of SSH, which is called secure socket host. You can also experiment this with the help of the virtual machine that you are using on for the virtual lab setup. In the virtual machine, in any one of the operating system, go to the networking. In that networking, you go to the corresponding network adapter. Below that, you will find port forwarding. You click on port forwarding. You type there that which protocol to be allowed, and what is the protocol, what is the port to be allowed for this for the connecting to this computer or connecting to the virtual machine operating system. So that that entry you are supposed to do for this particular tunneling, and you may allow SSH, and SSH will use the port 22. So you can enter the 22 port to the corresponding virtual machine operating system, and you can give the input IP as any IP address. Means from any IP address you want to connect to the SSH port 22 of the corresponding operating system. So from the Windows operating system, you can use this SSH tunnel, and you may connect to the virtual machine. But if there exists any lapses in the SSH server that is running on the web server end, then that may also be exploited. That may also be exploited, and to gain the access via this particular SSH encrypted tunnel is part of this SSH brute force attack. Next, some other attacks are web server password tracking attack. That is, attacker focus on exploiting default and weak passwords. Next one is SMTP, FTP, SSH tunnels, web shares, web forms are attackers' main target. Because SMTP, FTP are less secured compared to the SSH tunnels. Usually, even SSH tunnels are also less secured. For that, we use virtual private networks which are implemented via IPsec. That can be used for this. Usually, instead of FTP, it is recommended to use the TFTP, which is called Trivial File Transfer Protocol. Some people will use very old technique such as the Telnet to connect to the servers. Sometimes Telnet is also sometimes vulnerable and maybe easily compromised. So these are the various things that are used for the gaining of the passwords. First, they will check with the default passwords. If default passwords are successful, then it's fine. Otherwise, they will guess and they will use the brute force attacks or dictionary-based attacks. Next one is attacker may use social engineering, phishing, spoofing, using trojans, keyloggers. These are the things they may be done. They may do it. This trojans, including of trojans and keyloggers, is possible if they have access to the directory traversal attacks. Then only they can inject this keyloggers and trojans in the directories. If the directory traversal is disabled, then it is not possible. Okay. Tools are used as Cain and Abel Hydra, Brutus for this, especially for this password attacking. Next as a web server is not only working in its entirety. However, web servers are especially for running of the web applications. The presence of vulnerabilities in web applications also lead to the web server hacking. The possible web application attacks are like this: form tampering, cookie tampering, invalid file and injection, input injection, SQL injection, session hijacking, cross-site scripting, buffer overflows, cross-site request forgery. These are the most commonly happening attacks when there exists a vulnerability present on the web application. Now we'll see the web server attack methodology. The steps involved in the web server attack are information gathering. First step always in the ethical hacking and penetration testing is first thing is reconnaissance. Reconnaissance or information gathering. Reconnaissance or information gathering totally deals with getting the general content about the website or about the target computer or target IP. Next one is web server footprinting, then mirroring the websites. Next one is vulnerability scanning, session hijacking, hacking web servers and passwords. This is the systematic way. In this systematic way, you are supposed to perform the web server attack. This is a methodology to be followed. The first thing is information gathering. Gathering information about the server, especially, this is deal with. In the first lecture, I had told you how to get the information about the web server via Nikto tool. So you might have practiced that Nikto space -h, host name space -p, port number. Majorly, this Nikto tool is especially used for scanning the port 80 on any of the hosts. That means it will mainly target the web servers. So you also practice the Nikto tool and will come to know what are the access available on the server that is running on the target computer. Next is search over the internet for this purpose, information gathering. You may go for news bulletins or news groups and get the information. That is general way of getting the information. Here no technical content will be found, but the technical content will be found with the help of whois.net. You can go to the whois.net and there you type the domain name. You will get every information about that website. Next is the traceroute. Traceroute will give you the information about how far or how much distance is there from your computer to that server, how many hops you have to pass through. These details will be identified in the traceroute. Next is active whois. This is also a type of domain in which you will find every information about the domain of whatever you want. Next is it will provide you the domain name, IP, service provider, who is the internet service provider of that, who is the domain service provider. Every information you will get out of it. And in general, there will be .txt files that are available over the internet, where you will find the information about the web servers, directories, and files, which is called robot.txt. Information gathering from robot.txt. It contains information about the list of web servers, directories, and files, root directory structure, content management system information, etc. All these things will be available in this particular robot.txt file. Once you get this robot.txt file, half of your work will be over. That means the details about this directory listing, everything will be found in the robot.txt. Next one is web server footprinting. Footprinting is somewhat narrowed than the information gathering. In this footprinting, we will get the technical content. Technical content means which is essential for launching the security attacks. This step aims to collect the valuable system level data such as account details, okay, work groups, operating systems, software version, server names, and database schemas that are available on the target computer. For this, the Netcraft and Telnet are the very popular tools used for this purpose. Netcraft in the footprinting chapter also, in the footprinting videos also, I have projected Netcraft, how to get the information using Netcraft. You may search those videos or you may view those videos to know about the Netcraft and whois. Telnet is a web server to footprint a web server. So that means you may use Telnet space web server website name space port number. So you can connect to that web server via some default username and password, and you can get the information about the web server. Use tools such as IDserve, HTTP Recon. These are the very popular tools used for getting the informations that are mentioned above, such as operating system information, server names, database schemas. These information you can get via this one. That means footprinting is more technical than the information gathering or reconnaissance. Next step is more deeper. Once first you have done the broad literature, broad survey, then you have gone for some narrow. This is called web server enumeration. Web server enumeration usually will be done to know the vulnerabilities present on the target computer. This will be done with the help of simple Nmap tool. Actually, the attackers use the advanced Nmap scan options, such as the scripts that are present in the Nmap. So the major commands that you can use are nmap-sv, that means scan with the verbose -o-p target IP. Next one is you may also use HTTP enumeration, where you will find the details of the SSL certificate, the version of the certificate, and what type of request it supports, either GET request or POST request. What is the TLS status? This kind of information you can get via HTTP enumeration. For this, you can use the scripts of Nmap. Nmap-sv script is equal to HTTP enum target IP address. So for this basic understanding of Nmap, I have provided a video. You can go through that video. Next is Nmap target IP -p, that is port number 80. Script is equal to this script is especially for getting the vulnerability information or enumeration details regarding the front page login, the first login page. So this is the third command, is especially used for this purpose. Next one is nmap script http password -script -args http password.root is equal to /target IP address. This is the standard notation to be used to reveal any weak passwords that are available on the target IP. These are the ways you can perform the enumeration and get the information. And there are so many other scripts are available. You can use those scripts. Next one is mirroring and vulnerability scanning. As I told you, in the phishing attacks, mirroring is the most common way of performing. Mirroring, it deals with the mirroring a website to create a complete profile of the sites, directory structure files, external links, etc. Search for comments and other items in the HTML sources. Usually, the details about the website and all, sometimes when they are coding or when they are doing something in HTML, they will write comments. They may forget to remove that. That may also help you to know the information about the HTML sources and all. For this, it is recommended to use the tools such as HTTrack, that is HTTrack, Web Copier Pro, Black Widow. These are the very powerful tools that can be used using the for the mirroring purpose. You may also use social engineering toolkits for mirroring the website also. Next, coming to the vulnerability scanning. Once you have done the footprinting, the enumeration, and these mirroring of sites, then you can find out the vulnerability scanning. Vulnerability is available on the web server. Here, vulnerability is in the sense, vulnerability is not only for the web server. This is also applicable for the operating system and other applications that are running on the web server computer. It is to identify weakness in the network and to determine the system can be exploited or not. That means, is there any vulnerabilities present on the computer, on the web server, in view of the computer hardware, or in view of the operating system, or in view of the database, or in view of the web server, so that can we launch any attack by exploiting those vulnerabilities or not. This kind of study will be done first. Then use vulnerability scanning tools. There are open source scanning tools available like Nessus, Metasploit is there, OpenVAS is there, and some proprietary tools are there. HP Web Inspector, Acunetix Vulnerability Scanner. These are the proprietary tools. Okay. whereas Nessus, Metasploit, OpenVAS are the open tools, free tools. You can use any of these tools and get the vulnerabilities that are present on the target server. Snip the packets to know active system and services. So sniffing will also give you what services and what active systems are there, what are the active systems over the net, and what are the services running on the server. Next, test and web server infrastructure for any misconfiguration. So this is the elementary step will be carried out by the any hacker or attacker. Especially they will target the default settings first. They will work with the default settings, then they will go for doing of all these things. The reason is the fourth one that I have mentioned here is test the web server infrastructure for any misconfiguration. So if they find any misconfiguration, then using the default settings, default values, they may enter into the target server. Other thing, second one is next one is session hijacking. Sniff or spoof for the valid session IDs and gain the unauthorized access. This is one methodology to attack this web server. Use session hijacking technique such as session fixation attack, session sidejacking, cross-site scripting, and others. Use for this you may use the tools such as Brubsuit. I will post a video on the Brubsuit, how to use the Brubsuit, Firesheep, JHijack, etc. These are the various other tools available for the session hijacking. Hacking web passwords. Use password cracking techniques such as brute force attacks, dictionary attacks, password guessing to crack the web server passwords. For this, it is recommended to use the tools such as THC Hydra. Hydra is a tool which is available in the Kali Linux. Next to Brutus. Brutus is not there. You can download from outside. Now we'll move on to the countermeasures. Here, especially the countermeasures is focusing on how to secure your servers so that this kind of web server attack cannot be possible. So always it is recommended to enclose the web servers in a secure zone, such as internet. From the internet, use the external firewall and then DMZ. In the DMZ, this web servers to be placed, which is called demilitarized zone. Then thereafter, internal firewalls will be there. After internal firewalls, organizational network. That means these are the levels you are supposed to place in any organization, especially to sanitize the data which is coming into the organizational network. Next one is patches and updates. Do the patches and updates regularly. Review the help documents before fixing the patches and updates. Apply all updates regardless of their type. Backup the servers regularly. Server backing up is very, very important. Never try to have two updates behind. Protocols. Disable unnecessary protocols such as ICMP traffic, NetBIOS, because some of the computers will boot from the network. They will use NetBIOS. So this kind of NetBIOS, SMB, these kind of things you disable it. And always you use the secure communication via IPsec policies. And disable any web dev, that is debugging activities present in the web server. Next one is accounts. Remove all unused modules and application extensions. Disable the default accounts. Eliminate unnecessary database users and store and secure the web permissions. NTPS permissions. These are the permissions that are required in the web server to maintain, especially like access control list, you can say. And perform the auditing of these accounts regularly. How frequently these accounts are visiting other sites or other restricted sites. These kind of things. How many are they visiting? These kind of things also need to be done. And how much traffic is coming into these accounts. These are the part of auditing that must be done regularly. Next is file and directories. Eliminate unnecessary files within the jar file or var file, WebRTO or Java RTO file. Next is eliminate sensitive configuration information within the bytecode. Avoid mapping the virtual directories between two different servers over a network. And disabling the directory browsing or directory traversals. eliminate the presence of non-web folders. That is, don't place anything which is not related to the web content in the web server. That is what the idea behind it. So these are the possible countermeasures mentioned, and this is related to the web server attacks. I will post a separate video regarding various tools, at least 10 to 15 tools. I will explain that video regarding how to use those tools for practically implementing the web server attacking methodology.